This is Comedian. You've probably seen it before. It's the infamous banana stuck to a wall with duct tape that was sold for $120,000. It's the work of Italian artist Maurizio Cattelan, who's kind of made a name for himself with these deliberately provocative pieces that blur the lines of what art really means. For example, America, an 18-karat gold toilet, or Turisti, which was just thousands of embalmed pigeons stuck to the ceiling rafters. But by far his most famous piece is Comedian, which has become something of a symbol for the pretentious world of postmodern art. There are lots of people who will dispute that it even counts as art. That's not art, it's a banana stuck to a wall. When it first hit the news, I was in this boat too. I couldn't tell you exactly what the definition of art was, but this wasn't it. This didn't require talent, thought, effort. Anyone could have done it. Why is it that this banana is worth 120 grand, but when I do it, it's a waste of a perfectly good banana? Time has changed my mind on Comedian as I get older and lean more and more into being one of those pretentious art guys. Art is all about the interpretations that you bring to it. That's the whole deal with abstract paintings or poetry. That's why someone can say that this is their favourite painting ever when all you see is a couple of random shapes. Many people have taken different things from Comedian. Some see it as a scam, some artist conning people out of thousands of dollars with a banana. Some people see it as a joke about pretentious postmodern art, that it's supposed to be a work of satire, that all of this is just nonsense. It's all just bananas taped to walls, and you're all stupid for seeing something in it. Personally, I think that boundary pushing was the entire point. It was meant to be provocative and make you consider what art really means. Does art require talent and skill? Isn't art just the act of expression itself? The controversy isn't just a backlash to the piece. The backlash is an intended part of the art itself. These deeper conversations about something that looks deceptively simple are something I really love about art, and oftentimes the same idea is at the root of my favourite indie games. Oftentimes the simplest looking games, like Undertale, are actually deeply complex and cover a wide variety of themes and emotions. More than anything, that hidden complexity has become what indie games as a whole are famous for. Cutesy, simple-looking games that are actually about deep, emotional themes. What was once a subversion has just sort of become the standard. I'm not saying that's bad, some of my favourite games fall under this category. But when every game is trying to be like this, trying to be more than it appears to be, it can be a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes you just want something that's exactly what it says on the tin. Frog Detective is about a frog. He's a detective. A frog detective. The second best detective in the agency. Gameplay is very simple. You ask people questions, pick up items, and solve a mystery. It's one of the best trilogies in gaming. This video is going to be difficult for me, because I'm Scottish, and that means, like all Scottish people, that I'm a sarky bastard. Sarcasm is like my go-to form of interaction, so when I heap tons and tons of praise onto this, I'm just going to automatically sound like I'm being sarcastic. There is no twist in this video. There's no reveal that it was secretly a grief monster all along, or that the frog detective is chasing after the ghost of his dead wife. At all times, Frog Detective subverts the idea of being subversive. I know what you're thinking. Isn't that boring? If it's all just surface level, then where exactly is the entertainment? What justifies making a video essay about it if there's no hidden depth to uncover? The trick is that there's no such thing as a simple game. Video games are one of the most complicated mediums to produce, and it takes a high level of skill to make something that looks like it was easy to make. Just because there's no twist in Frog Detective, no hidden meaning, doesn't mean it was any less difficult to make than a game that does have that hidden meaning. It just changes the foundation of our discussion a little bit. Let's start with the first thing that you're likely to notice, the game's art style. It looks incredibly simplistic, almost childlike, with the scribbly fonts and simple shapes and basic backgrounds. This isn't what successful indie games are supposed to look like. The rules go like this. AAA games aim for ultra-realism, pushing hardware to its limits in an arms race to get closer and closer to emulating life, while indie games push artistic boundaries, delivering more and more iconic and beautiful games that look like oil paintings or 1930s cartoons or any other variety of incredibly impressive artistry. Frog Detective's art is not pushing any boundaries. It's not exactly accurate to call it retro either. It's not aiming to look like an old game, it just looks like a simple game. You might be tempted to call it low effort, but this is game development. There's no such thing as low effort. There's no stock assets in the games, it's all custom made, and it takes a hell of a lot of skill to make something that looks bad in a good way. It's a lot of work put into making something that doesn't look like it was a lot of work, trying to capture a kind of child's drawing on the fridge look, which an actual child, unless they're some kind of prodigy, couldn't actually make in Unity. It doesn't matter what your character and levels look like in a game, you still need to know how to 3D model, you still need to know how to animate, you still need to know how to import assets and add collision detectors and dialogue triggers and gravity, because gravity does not exist in Unity until you make it exist. This is why we don't really get so bad it's good video games in the way you get so bad it's good movies. A bad video game is almost always bad because it's just broken and unplayable. It's pretty much impossible for someone to make a game who doesn't know what they're doing, whereas anyone can pick up a camera and bark directions at a few friends. So the question comes, why intentionally make a game look like this? Is it some kind of elaborate parody? No. It just looks cute and simple, and there is nothing more to these games than the creativity itself. Typically, the most famous indie games are the ones that showcase a lot of the developer's personality, at least when we're talking about single-digit development teams anyway. You can't really play Undertale without learning a lot about its creator, Toby Fox. Frog Detective is the work of Worm Club, a two-person dev team composed of Grace Bruxner and Thomas Bochner. And something that you'll probably pick up on very quickly, even though there's no spoken dialogue, is that they are Australian. There's a style of humour in these games that I can only really describe as Australian. It's you know it when you see it kind of thing, in the way that it lingers on certain jokes and focuses on awkward moments. Also, for future reference, these games with no voice acting are much more fun if you just do the voices yourself. Yeah, the mysteries all solve and never what they seem. It's always a misunderstanding or an accident. Nobody's ever malicious on purpose in my mysteries. I'm so glad that crime isn't real. Didn't you get extorted earlier? Yes, I think that's a crime. I suppose crime is real after all. Your office is called Frog Detective Crime Solving Agency. Yes? Detective, why do you believe that crime isn't real? I was simply exaggerating. Frog Detective feels like being let in on someone's personal project. Not something they're trying to make a big deal of, not something they're pouring all of their emotion into, just a little thing they've been making to amuse themselves. These games are child-friendly for sure, but clearly made by adults. The writing is sharp, not in a cynical or sarcastic way, but in a cleverly goofy way. With no voice acting and almost no animation, the writing has to carry all of the jokes, and it does, again and again, delivering more than a few laugh-out-loud moments that are almost enhanced by the blank expressions on everyone's face. Hey, could I give you something for your help? What do you have? A pickaxe? Why? Sorry? Why do you have a pickaxe? What's it do you? Can't I just carry around a pickaxe? Is there something wrong with that? No, I guess not, but usually when people give stuff to me, they have some reason for having it in the first place. Do people give stuff to you often? Yeah, pretty often. Okay, well, I don't really have an explanation for the pickaxe thing, sorry. The charm of the jokes in this series isn't that they're intensely clever or even satirical of the point-and-click genre. It's that you can tell that they were included because they made the person that wrote them laugh. It makes the whole experience intensely endearing. If it was a 10-hour epic, then that might overstay its welcome, but at just around an hour for each game, you're in and out before anything gets too old. I started with the banana on the wall, but there is another kind of artist. Not every artist is aiming to be Maurizio Catalan with their intensely meaningful art. Some people just want to paint happy little trees.
See, and then you have to make big decisions. Maybe this peak right here. Oh, look here, there it comes. See? See, you can bring it right in front. You can move mountains. You can do anything on this canvas. On this canvas, you have total power.
Bob Ross was an oil painter who became famous in the 80s and 90s for his TV show The Joy of Painting. He's mostly known nowadays for a resurgence on the internet for having a very calming way of talking that can trigger ASMR, if you're into that sort of thing. Well, I liked Bob Ross before he was cool, goddammit. I mean, he died before I was born after a decade of immense success, but I liked him before he became a meme. The man was more than just a meme to be put into video games 20 years after his death, which, for the record, I still think is really weird. He may be famous for his mannerisms and his hair, but he also had a very specific philosophy on painting. He made it clear that he didn't paint for recognition or to convey any kind of message through art. He painted for the joy of painting, hence the name of the show. He believed that anyone, no matter their skill, level, or age, could learn to paint, and behind the show he built an empire of paint-teaching materials. Like anyone who becomes the most famous person in their field, Bob Ross is actually a bit of a controversial figure amongst famous painters. His trademark technique, wet on wet, is known for looking good at a distance or on camera, but up close it's actually much less impressive and detailed than other painting styles, which has led to other artists considering him a bit of a faker. And it's true. Bob Ross's paintings look nice. They look okay, but they're not masterpieces, and I seriously doubt the man himself would claim that they are either. He painted 3 copies of each for every show, one before the show's reference, one during the show, and one afterwards for the camera close-ups. Bob Ross didn't paint to create masterpieces. He painted for fun, and his show is all about teaching people that art doesn't have to be amazing. It can be full of happy little accidents. The joy of art is the joy of creation itself. Frog Detective is not a masterpiece, it's not trying to be a masterpiece, but it's an embodiment of the joy of creation. It doesn't matter the quality of the end product because you can tell that the people who made it had an absolute blast making it. It's for that reason that Frog Detective has become a cult favourite of not just game critics, but specifically of fellow game developers and artists. You don't have to make masterpieces, your art doesn't have to change the world, you can just make things for fun, things that are primarily to entertain yourself, and people will still care about them, still enjoy them, and still make their own art about them. I consider what I do on this channel art. It's not the same kind of art, obviously, it's making art of other people's creations, but in doing so, I am creating my own art, thus fulfilling the legal requirements of fair use. Hey YouTube, I'm also trying to turn this into a career, and there comes the artist's dilemma. How do you maintain joy while trying to turn it into a job? I'd love to be proven wrong, but I seriously doubt this is going to be one of my best performing videos. Frog Detective found its niche and ran with it, but it's hardly a smash success that's going to bring in a ton of new viewers. Luck is the reason that I found it and was compelled to make a video about it. I'm sure there's tons of other games like Frog Detective out there that I would love, but I've just not stumbled across them. Chances are luck is what brought you to this video as well. It's possible that making this video is a bad idea. Who knows how the algorithm works? Maybe an underperforming video could tank my entire channel. But I know that if I let cold business drive all of my creative decisions, then I'll no longer experience that joy of creativity, and if I don't experience that joy anymore, then why am I even bothering? I can't ignore the cold business entirely, obviously. The world revolves around money, and I need to eat, which is why I would be very thankful if you would subscribe to my Patreon. Finding that balance is the challenge of any professional artist, but I and many other artists take Frog Detective as a reminder that you don't have to cave entirely to the cold business. You don't have to bend to the whims of the algorithm, you don't have to follow the industry trends. It's the oldest writing advice in the book, but it's worth a reminder sometimes. Make the things that you want to make, and other people will want to see them too.